The other day I was in a video game store with a friend, standing by the PS2 games, just picking some off the shelf and talking about them, when suddenly something caught my eye. Something that seemed off. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. Just by mentioning its name, you can probably picture its North American box art in your head. A deep blue atmosphere, the titular prince hanging off the side of a wall, the whole thing accentuated by bright yellow sand. Although some would argue it's aged poorly, it's still a very memorable and, at this point, iconic box art, recognizable to many gamers, even if they've never played the game. In front of me now, however, was not that. A box art completely different from the original. I didn't even recognize it as being the Sands of Time until I inspected more closely. At first, I suspected it was a weird fan-made box art that the game store had printed out instead of the original, but after feeling the paper the art was printed on, it felt like it was professionally printed. Opening the case left me even more confused, as the disc and manual had been changed to match the new box art. So in the middle of this store, I had to go to Google and start researching what this was, and though it almost seemed that this alternate cover's origin was lost to the Sands of Time, I was able to figure out to a decent degree what the origins of this alternative cover were. Now, before I go into why this alternative cover exists, I suppose it's about time I show you what this cover even looks like. Are you ready? Well, here it is! I'm sure you Prince of Persia fans in the audience are scratching your heads right now, thinking, why does this copy of Sands of Time have the exact same box art as the Forgotten Sands? Well, in May of 2010, Ubisoft was quite busy with the Prince of Persia franchise, gearing up to release both the Forgotten Sands game and the Disney-produced Sands of Time movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal. In that same month, Kotaku reported that these new Greatest Hits copies of the Sands of Time were hitting the shelves in order to promote both the Forgotten Sands and the movie. Now, if you think about the logic behind re-releasing a 7-year-old PS2 game with the cover art for a completely different game, you might come to the conclusion that this would be incredibly confusing to the consumer. This is all besides the fact that the release of Forgotten Sands was already confusing, being a game that released on all 7th gen platforms but is a completely different game depending on which system you bought it for, totaling as being 4 different games. And now we have this PS2 copy of Sands of Time, which literally isn't even the Forgotten Sands, also being re-released at the same time. So if you walked into a game store in May of 2010, you would see 5 games with the same box art, and they're all different. It's just such a baffling decision that even now it confused me when I saw it 16 years later. I can't help but think it would have been better for everyone if they just re-released the PS2 version with the movie poster as its cover. Better yet, Ubisoft could have just reprinted the game with its original box art, which would have required no extra effort and wouldn't have confused countless people. It seems this marketing strategy wasn't viewed very favorably at the time either, as the Kotaku article is pretty scathing in itself, and people on NeoGAF had similarly unkind things to say. Holy shit! What the hell? What the fuck is going on at Ubisoft? It's fucking box art. Get over it. Nothing can be worse than this, lol. Really? Who the fuck cares? They're being deceived to play one of the best games of all time. In this thread, people get mad at something that has gone on in most forms of media since ever. It's business, fools. And that's it for this small footnote in the long, really troubled history of Ubisoft and Prince of Persia. I found it interesting, so I want to make a quick video on it, but it seems like people on that NeoGAF thread were more divided. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.